Here are your General Hospital spoilers for Thursday, January 26th, 2026. Now that Scout's dad is incapacitated thanks to Scout's stepmom, Alexis finally thinks she has an opening to lay claim to her poor, sad, neglected granddaughter. After all, her only living parent can no longer take care of her. Plus, Alexis is well aware that Willow is a would-be killer who is also a little off her rocker. If a judge won't let her have custody of her own children, why should she be allowed to have Scout? Alexis tells Willow that she thinks it's best if Scout lives with her now, but is Willow willing to let Scout go? For Willow, life is all about having children in her possession. If Alexis tries to fight Willow, is it possible that Willow will go after Danny and the secret that he saw Scout the days after Christmas? We now know Willow has no problem going low. Now that Willow has been acquitted, Tracy is racking her brain trying to figure out who really shot Drew. Michael swears it wasn't him, so she believes him. When Jason finds Tracy in the solarium, she tells him that she will be his alibi if Jason is the culprit. Does she forget that Jason was in Croatia at the time, tracking down Britt? Or does she not believe that story anymore? Jocelyn is stunned when Jack calls her into his office and tells her that she has been deactivated as a WSB agent. Joss demands to know why, after she gave so much of herself to this job over the last year, nearly getting herself killed more than once. Does Jack have an answer for his girlfriend's daughter? What causes Jack to make such a decision? Is he onto the fact that Jocelyn has been giving information to Jason? Or does he want to keep his relationship with Carly intact and thinks he has to fire Jocelyn to do it? Little does he know that the damage has already been done. With General Hospital's Drew down for the count, and possibly looking at a future with locked-in syndrome, House Speaker Mike Johnson will be down a congressman soon, and Governor Kathy Hochul will have to call a special election. That means Drew Kane's congressional seat is up for grabs, so Port Charles will once again be headed to the polls. The two top contenders for Drew's spot would have to be Port Charles's top two politicians, Mayor Laura Collins and Councilman Ezra Boyle. Clearly, Ezra and Laura are in opposite political parties, since one is in politics for the power and the other cares about the people, whether they voted for her or not. We can see Ezra chomping at the bit to go to Washington, where he will fit in quite well with all the other corrupt politicians in our nation's capital. He cozied up to Drew as much as he could in the past, thinking this somehow made him DC adjacent. However, we can't see Laura going into this willingly. She doesn't look like the type who wants to be on the national stage. She just wants to serve her small town, the place she has always called home. However, someone might not give her an option. Sidwell was already thinking of getting rid of Drew. He had no problem making sure he was ousted from Congress because he realized that the smarmy politician was much more trouble than he was worth. However, Sudell will still want to control whoever takes Drew's place, so why not use two politicians already under his control? Sidwell already has Laura and Ezra under his thumb, so he could force Laura to run, thinking that whichever choice the voters make, he will still have someone to do his dirty work in DC. He could just sit back and let the election play out without even putting his hands on the scale. What Sidwell doesn't know is that Sonny and Laura already have a plan to bring him down, and cooperation is part of that plan. Laura might do whatever Sidwell wants for now, but that doesn't mean it will work out for him in the end. General Hospital spoilers hint that Drew Kane may end up trapped at Turning Woods while Willow Kane is free to fight for Wiley Corinthos and Amelia Corinthos. Before the verdict came in, Michael Corinthos met with Willow to discuss the programs in place for her in prison. If Willow landed behind bars, Michael was willing to work with her on visitation of the kids. Willow wondered what would happen if she got acquitted, but Michael was still wary of letting Wiley and Amelia spend time around Drew. Of course, that's not a problem anymore thanks to the stroke Willow caused. Now Drew is incapacitated and won't be a negative influence again anytime soon. If Lucas Jones' hint about locked-in syndrome pans out, Drew may be trapped in his own body for quite some time. Drew may find himself at a long-term care facility before long, so Turning Woods seems like a good option. Once Drew's stuck there or somewhere like it, Willow should be free to seek the Wiley and Amelia visits she's been so desperately longing for. Willow may hope this will eventually lead to her regaining custody rights. Getting Drew out of the picture was only step one of Willow's plan, so there'll be many other phases coming up. In a perfect world, Willow would like to see Michael wind up at Pentonville for shooting Drew so that she could have the children all to herself. GH fans know Willow is the one who pulled the trigger, but she's in the clear following that not guilty verdict. Now Michael is the one who could face charges depending on how far the DA's office wants to take this. Dante Falconeri has been tasked with building a case against Michael, so we'll see how it all goes down. However, Willow may have to keep things amicable with Michael in the meantime. Michael knows how much the kids have been missing their mom, so he may be tempted to relent on Willow's visitation as long as Drew isn't part of the package. General Hospital spoilers say Willow will make some updates to her plans as this storyline moves along, so stay tuned for any other wild news to come. General Hospital spoilers hint that Willow Kane may plot to silence Kai Taylor and refuse to let anyone ruin her plan. Will Kai end up alerting Willow to how much he knows and put himself in grave danger? Thanks to the ringtone shocker, Kai and Trina Robinson put it together that Willow was guilty shortly before closing arguments. However, Alexis Davis moved ahead with defending Willow and ultimately got her acquitted. Trina and Kai intend to come forward if Michael Corinthos faces trial. But there's a new wrinkle in all this. Kai is quite suspicious of Willow and the waterworks she's been putting on over Drew Kane's stroke. Of course, Kai also knows what Willow is capable of since she shot Drew in the back twice. It's obvious Kai has a hunch that Drew's latest medical crisis was instigated by Willow too. Kai may not be able to prove it, but he could go sniffing around and leave Willow on edge. There might come a point when Kai confronts Willow and blurts out what he knows about the night of the shooting. Then again, maybe Kai could just make some thinly veiled comments that leave Willow thinking he knows too much. Willow may realize Kai is aware she's the shooter and suspects she's behind Drew's stroke as well. Since Willow doesn't want any of that information leaking to anyone else, she might take steps to saline Kai permanently. Willow got away with shooting Drew and has now pulled the wool over almost everyone's eyes with this stroke situation. We have no doubt that Willow could get creative and perhaps fake some sort of accident for Kai. Kai might survive whatever Willow has in store for him, but there could be another problem she didn't anticipate. Trina was also there the night Drew got shot and may end up getting just as suspicious as Kai about Willow's involvement in Drew's stroke. If Kai gets seriously injured under mysterious circumstances, some alarm bells may go off for Trina. GH fans may see Trina become Willow's new enemy if she finally decides to spread the news about all Willow's twisted behavior. Regardless, General Hospital spoilers say Willow will face some curveballs when it comes to all her scheming, so stay tuned for updates on all the excitement. General Hospital spoilers reveal that Kirsten Storms has confirmed she's returned to GH and is back at work, so Maxie's coma awakening is ahead. It won't be long until Maxie opens her eyes and reunites with her loved ones, so GH viewers are eager to see the next chapter of her story. On Instagram, Storms posted a photo of herself at a mirror next to some cards with uplifting phrases and left fans delighted over some positive updates. The GH star took a leave of absence and moved to Tennessee with her daughter, Harper, during her time off, but Storms offered confirmation that she's been at the studio filming again. Boom! 2026 already. That was fast, Storms said. Back at work. Seriously missing my bug though. California doesn't feel right without her here. Of course, this lines up with 2026 preview info, which already confirmed Maxie would indeed get a wake-up call soon. Maxie's family and friends have been waiting long enough, so some good news is headed their way. Once Maxie emerges from her coma, she'll have a chance to see her kids again and catch up on everything she's missed. Naturally, the biggest shocker that happened while Maxie was comatose involves the return of her presumed dead husband. Nathan West is alive, so Maxie's in for a giant shock when she finally sees him again. It'll be interesting to see Maxie's reaction to Nathan being back in the picture. Maxie may insist that's impossible at first, but she'll inevitably find out about the fingerprints and DNA match. James West may admit he's been getting to know his dad and leave Maxie reeling over all this information. Once Maxie looks in Nathan's eyes for herself, will she know in her heart it's her hubby or still have doubts? Maxie's true feelings could be a hint about where this storyline is headed, so we'll keep you posted on what's coming up. If Maxie believes this Nathan is the real deal and lets herself fall for him once more, Damian Spinelli may end up heartbroken. General Hospital spoilers say Maxie will wake up to a messy love life, so don't miss all the chaos that's in store for her. Here is your General Hospital recap for Wednesday, January 21st, 2026, when Willow put on a better act than she did when she took the stand in her own defense. Ava met up with Nina at the coffee house, where she was pleased to see Trina and Kai in a close moment. She sat down with her BFF so they could discuss Willow. While I'm thrilled that she's been exonerated, Willow still has a major problem. Drew, Nina said. Ava advised Nina to stay out of Willow's life and let her handle Drew on her own. If Willow decides to end her marriage, it will be her choice, Ava said. Just then, Willow called. In a panicked voice, she told Nina that something had happened to Drew. At another table, Trina expressed how happy he was to be with Kai. However, Curtis interrupted them and asked to speak to Trina alone. He asked if she had heard from Portia, but Trina said she'd told her mother that she needed space. Curtis informed his daughter that Portia was meeting with the hospital board any minute. Portia arrived at the hospital to try to save her job, but Stella caught up with her as soon as she got off the elevator. Stella played dumb and acted like Portia had an OB appointment, but Portia knew Stella was aware of why she was really there, to speak to members of the hospital board. Portia walked off. When Stella turned around, she was staring at Isaiah. He tried to talk to Stella, but she didn't want to hear what the doctor had to say about Portia. "That's a family matter, and you are not family," she said. Isaiah pointed out that he was involved. Isaiah pointed out that Curtis and Portia's marriage was already falling apart when he got involved with Dr. Robinson. He stressed that Curtis was not innocent. In a hospital office, Tracy and Laura went over Portia's case. Tracy wanted to just side with Portia on principle, after all that Drew had put her through. Laura noted that the hospital board wouldn't be happy with Portia altering a patient's test results. And Monica would want what's best for the hospital, Tracy sighed. Laura said that the question came down to whether GH could afford to keep a doctor who knowingly did what Portia did. Portia soon sat down with Laura and Tracy, who explained it was their job to give a recommendation to the full board. Their choices were to reinstate her on a probationary basis or let her go. Portia took full responsibility for her actions, which she knew were wrong. Portia stressed that she had been cleared by the American Medical Association and that she was only trying to protect her daughter. "I'm an excellent doctor, and with the exception of this atypical situation, I have a sterling record," Portia said. She also made sure Laura and Tracy knew that she saved Drew's life the night he was shot. Laura and Tracy thanked Portia for her time. They now had a decision to make. Later, Curtis met with Laura in her mayoral office to unofficially go to bat for Portia. Laura was happy to hear what he had to say. Jason showed up at the hospital at Britt's request. She asked him to come with her because she wanted to show him something. Jason followed her, but neither one noticed Cullum lurking in the background. Britt brought Jason into her new office to show it off. "This office is the first step in getting my life back, getting me back," she said. Britt then gave Jason cash as an installment on her Café Cherie bill. "I don't want your money," Jason said, but Britt insisted he take the cash. Britt even wanted to take Jason out on a date. He quickly accepted the invitation. Britt planned to pick Jason up in her car and asked him to wear a blue suit. Jason reluctantly agreed and left. Once Britt was alone, she was surprised when Cullum walked into her office. "Did you really think leaving the 5 poppies behind meant you could leave me behind?" he asked. Cullum ordered Britt to start working at Windermere that night and to complete the project in 3 months. He warned her she would need a new source of meds if she refused. Lucas and Elizabeth met up at the General Hospital nurses' station to talk about Willow's trial. "Willow's a free woman," Liz said with enthusiasm. "Well, at least that's what 12 people sitting in a box say," Lucas replied. Elizabeth was ready to just move on and put this nightmare behind her. Lucas wondered how long it would be until Willow was back at work. Liz wasn't sure, but she looked forward to having her back on staff. Just then, they learned that a critical patient was en route to the ER. That critical patient turned out to be Drew. Willow put on a perfect performance as she lied to Elizabeth and frantically told her that Drew had a headache, but then drank some champagne to celebrate her acquittal. We both took a sip and we were going to toast, but then Drew looked sort of confused, like he knew what he wanted to say, but he couldn't quite get the right words to come out. And then it was like one side of his face was melting. It was all just happening really fast, she said, with crocodile tears. While Willow waited for news on Drew, Kai and Nina approached her. Kai looked at Willow suspiciously as she breathlessly told Nina how scared she was. Tracy soon found Willow crying with Nina and was shocked to hear about Drew. Lucas soon met with Willow and company to tell her that it appeared that Drew had suffered a massive stroke. He wasn't sure if Drew would recover or how impaired he would be if he did survive. Willow broke down in tears again as everyone sympathized with her. When Willow left to use the restroom, Tracy sat down with Nina to talk. Tracy was pragmatic about what happened, telling Nina, "Karma's a bitch, and now it's come for Drew." As for Willow, she took the syringe she used to induce Drew's stroke and tossed it in a medical waste container. Back at the coffee shop, Trina told Ava she hoped Drew's condition wasn't serious. Ava didn't seem worried. "Don't worry about Drew. Heaven won't take him and hell's full," she said. Sunny and Justine argued in her office as Sunny tried to give her some advice. He told her that targeting Michael would be a big mistake. He reminded Justine that she was compromised when it came to Michael, because she was there when Drew tried to extort him over Michael landing a punch. Justine agreed to recuse herself if Michael were to be charged. Sunny wondered why she wouldn't go after someone else, so she'd have another high-profile case. "I had the right person. I know Willow is guilty. I just couldn't prove it," she said. In the Q solarium, Chase and Michael continued to argue, with Chase pointing out that Michael had lied to the police about his alibi. Michael reiterated that he never went inside Drew's house that night, but Chase asked why he should believe him. An angry Michael told Chase he didn't want any of this, and he especially didn't want Willow to put their kids in danger by having Drew in their lives. A ridiculous Chase claimed that the danger was coming from Michael. "You said you loved her, but then, when she was manipulated by Drew into making a mistake, you didn't offer forgiveness," Chase shouted. "If anyone should be locked up right now and kept away from the kids, it's you." Michael tried to get Chase to see the light, telling him he had already thrown away his entire career for Willow. "But let's talk about the real reason you want to help Willow so badly. How long until you're back in her bed?" Michael sneered, leading Chase to haul off and deck him. A full-blown fistfight broke out, with Michael landing better punches than Chase. Jason ran in and broke things up before they had gone too far. "I'm going to make sure you pay for what you did," Chase said before running off. Jason sat down with Michael, who once again told him that he didn't shoot Drew. Jason believed him and reminded him not to say a word to the cops without Diane present. On General Hospital, Drew arrived at the hospital in rough shape, and it wasn't long before a stroke was his diagnosis. A few hours earlier, Willow had put a needle in his neck, then stepped right back into concern without missing a beat. By the time the diagnosis began to take hold, the story had already shifted away from whether Drew would make it, and toward who was steering the outcome. Willow's portrayer, Caitlin McMullen, dove into this latest madness going on in Port Charles. McMullen spoke with Soap Opera Digest about filming the injection scene. She described it as a technical piece of work, rehearsed, blocked, and dependent on everyone being locked in and willing to commit once the cameras were up. "We just had a blast, to be honest," she stated, adding, "It's a stunt, technically, and anytime there's a stunt, there's so much that goes into it. It's all coordinated and planned." She learned about the stabbing around the same time she learned Willow would be revealed as Drew's shooter, a pairing that clarified the scope of what the story was asking of her. There was no easing into moral gray here, no slow erosion of sympathy. Willow was already over the line, and the injection simply extended that choice, giving her a new way to act while still appearing reactive. McMullen initially read the move as lethal, then adjusted her thinking, seeing it less as an attempt to end Drew, and more as a way to stop him without erasing him. That pushed Willow well out of the realm of impulse or range, showing planning and malicious intent. Once Drew was hospitalized, Willow had to make everyone believe her shock. McMullen leaned into that tension, describing the hospital scenes as Willow putting on an acting job inside the story, constantly checking herself. "It was really fun to play," she said, especially the idea that Willow had to convince herself as much as anyone else. After 7 years in the role, this material pushed McMullen out of familiar territory, and she embraced it. She talked about feeling both energized and uneasy, discovering new corners of Willow by watching how she reacted under pressure instead of principle. The smirks, the restraint, the flashes of disdain weren't accidents. They were choices made possible once the audience knew the truth. "There's humor in it too," McMullen admitted, a thin thread of black comedy running through the intensity. "I'm glad there is some humor along with the craziness," she said, even as she hinted the worst may still be ahead.